Have you ever felt stuck in a life of comparison? Thinking that if you had what she had or he had, or even better, then I'd be happy. Then I'd be living a life where I'm fulfilled and free. Well, I want to break it to you that is not the case, right? So often we find ourselves comparing ourselves to the people around us. And I mean, now in today's age, it is so easy to get caught up in it. I can compare myself to the thing that I hold in my hand all the time. Social media has shown us so many other places, so many other aspects, so many other people that are further along in life than we think we should be. Because sometimes we sit there and we're finally content, and we're finally happy, and we're finally excited about where we are, and we are placed where we need to be until we look at the person beside us. And then we're not happy. Then I want what she had or what he had, and I want it better. I quickly want to kick off our time together with a story in my personal life where I had finally got the call to ministry. I got a call from the pastors and the leaders in our church, and they said, we have a youth pastor position ready and open for you. If you want to jump in there, this would be exciting for both of us. We're really, really excited to have you on the team. And when I got this news, friends, I was so excited. I was ecstatic. I remember walking down in the open field in tears of joy, celebrating that I had finally been put into the place that I feel called for and really excited about, until I got to my actual job. It wasn't only me that started out in this position. I had a few friends who had started this with me, and I was excited with them. We were all excited to take our first few steps in ministry, until I looked to my left and my right. And my closest friend, who was doing this, what's very similar to what I'm doing, he was flourishing in this field. He's flourishing in this environment. And I started to compare myself to what he had accomplished. I looked to my left and to my right, and all I saw was that I didn't measure up, or I didn't reach this goal. And every time he had moments to celebrate, I couldn't celebrate with him because I was stuck within comparison. I was not content with where I was. I was not content with who I was. I was stuck in this world of comparison. See, the thing about comparison is that where comparison starts, contentment ends. And the best place to kill anything that has potential is to compare it right at the beginning. See, with the moment I compared myself to my friend, I was not content with who I was, where I was, and what I was doing. I questioned everything. And that is the perfect place to kill anything that has potential, is right at the beginning, to compare it with something great. See, friends, the problem with comparison is that it is the loneliest fight you will ever fight. No one knows the struggle that you really carry when you compare yourself to someone beside you. Comparison is one of those fights where you have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, or you have to pick yourself up off the ground, but you are the object on the ground. Or you need to dig yourself out of a grave, and when you compare yourself, you get your shovel and you start digging, but you find yourself deeper and deeper in a grave, more and more stuck in this world of comparison. See, Teddy Roosevelt said that comparison is the thief of all joy. Another author, life coach, psychologist, she speaks and she says, comparison is an act of violence against the self. That you are actively hurting yourself, you're actively rejecting yourself. And that is when we find ourselves in this world of comparison, we put ourselves in what Andy Stanley says, the world of Ur. The land of Ur, where this world where we need to have what she has, but better. I need to have what he has, but better. I need to have the better car. I need to have the better shoes. I need to have the better job. I need to have the better this or the better that. And if I do not have the better, then I am the lesser. Then I actively hurt myself. See, comparison, the problem with comparison is it makes us feel superior or inferior to the world around us. And neither of these positions honors God. Because on the one side, when I compare myself, I actively reject myself. I actually actively reject the image of God. Or I put myself as superior, where I lean towards the applause of people. And their opinion speaks louder to me and who I am than God does. See, Paul speaks about this life of comparison, and he says in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12, and he says, but they only comparing themselves with each other, using themselves as the standard of measurement. How ignorant. Paul puts this world of comparison that we live in, and he staples it and he labels it as ignorant. How ignorant of us to take our own opinion above God. How ignorant of us to reject the image of God himself. See, the way we get out of this stuckness of comparison, friends, is we put God in his place. And we answer this one question of who or what do we allow us to define our worth or our value. And when we compare ourselves and when we seek validation from external factors, which as humans, as human beings, we often do, we seek validation, we seek the call of our value and our worth in external factors of do I measure up, of am I good enough, am I accepted, do I belong? And we see that answered in Jesus' baptism. In Matthew 3 verse 16, it is answered right there. It is not just spoken over Jesus Christ, but it is spoken over all of us. It says, this is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased. This is my beloved child, in whom I'm well pleased. God speaks over us, and he says, yes, you are accepted. You are accepted into family. You're accepted into relationship with God. Am I worth it? Am I enough? Yes, you are enough. It says, you are his beloved. How much exactly am I worth? Am I worth more than this? Am I worth less than this? God says, you know how much you're worth? You're worth so much that I would send my only begotten Son. This is the value that God puts over us. God says, the cornerstone of the universe, the cornerstone of all creation, I will send this out to you just to show you how much you're worth to me. So friends, when we want to compare ourselves or whether we're better or we're lesser, we need to ask ourselves this question. Who or what do I allow to define my worth or my value? And if it is the external factors, then you can pick up your shovel and you can start digging and keep on digging and see just how far you need to get to a place where you're accepted, where you are belonging, or where you are welcomed. Or you can hold on to this truth that Jesus speaks over us. And he says we are his chosen, beloved people. That we are accepted by him. See, the other way that we can win in this race of comparison, the way we can beat this life of comparison is to run the race set out before us. So run the race set out before us specifically. There's a story between Peter and John. I mean, if there is any example of comparison in the Bible, it is these two characters. John is the character who writes he writes about himself in the third person. I mean, who's that guy, right? He says the one that God loved. He tells a story of when Mary finds out that Jesus' tomb is empty. In John 20, Mary finds that the tomb is empty and she runs back to the disciples and she tells them, and Peter and John begin this foot race. They start to run. And John writes, the one that God loved reached the tomb first, and then the other one. And then Peter comes in. He says he saw Jesus on the shore, and he says, I saw him first. The one that God loved saw him first, and then Peter ran. And then Peter was active. And there's this other piece of scripture where Peter's talking to Jesus, and Jesus tells Peter, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Then feed my sheep. And after this beautiful moment where Peter is restored and redeemed, he looks to his left and his right. And he asks, but Jesus, what about him? What about John? What about that guy? What is he going to be doing? If I'm feeding your sheep, if I'm doing all these things, what is he going to be doing? Is he going to be doing less? Is he going to be doing more? Is he going to add more value to the kingdom? Is it better? Is it lesser than what I'm doing? And Jesus responds to him and he says, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? Jesus says, whatever purpose I give to John, what is that to you? And he says, as for you, you follow me. See, friends, we cannot be faithful Jesus followers if we're constantly looking to our left and our right. If we are constantly looking left and right, we cannot run the race set out before us. Any athlete will tell you that when you run a race, you don't look backwards, you don't look to the left or the right, you keep your head forward and you set your eyes on the goal. Because as soon as you look behind you, as soon as you look beside you, that's when you stumble. That's when you hit a hurdle, or when you trip over your shoe, or when you just hit the ground. You need to keep your eyes steadfast. See, Paul writes it so beautifully. He says we need to, in Hebrews 12, verse 1 to 2, it says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off every hindrance and the sin that so easily entangles us, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and the perfecter of our faith. We need to keep our eyes on Jesus. We need to set our eyes on Jesus and not look beside us or behind us, because that is where we stumble. We need to stop comparing. We need to seek out Christ and keep our eyes focused. And that is how we win in this life of comparison. See, friends, when we hold on to the truth that Jesus speaks over us, the value that He speaks over us, and we allow Him to define us, we allow Him to speak worth over us, then we can run the race set out before us. We can run not comparing, but celebrating the person beside us. So if you want to win in this race of comparison, this is one of the two things that you can do. Grab onto the truth that Jesus speaks over you and run the race that He's set out for you. And I want to leave you with this challenge. Pick one area of your life, just one place, and say, in this spot, I will not compare myself to anyone or anything. I will run the race set up before me. Where I am and where I need to be, that is where God wants me. I will run my race. I will not compare. If this content was helpful for you, then you should like and subscribe, and to also share this, because if this helps you, it is so much more helpful to the person beside you.